Welcome. Welcome to another DragonLance Saga review episode. It is Braca Fierce Wealth the 19th. My name is Adam, and today I'm going to give you my review of The Last Thane by Douglas Niles. I'd like to take a moment and thank the DL Saga members and invite you to consider becoming a member by visiting the link in the description below. You can even pick up DragonLance gaming materials using my affiliate links. Now, I'm 2 hours early. I had nothing else between now and my scheduled time, so I just thought, screw it. I'm just going to go live. So, surprise, I'm 2 hours early. All right, so this is my perspective, and I'm just going to recount the story as I provide my review of this book. Now, this is, of course, if you have an opinion or it differs from mine, put it in the live chat if you're joining us live, or in the comments if you're watching this after the fact. Okay, so The Last Thane is one of a series of novels set in the Chaos War. That means like literally during the Chaos War, not before it, like Summer Flame, which sort of, goes through the whole process, or after it, like the Fifth Age. This is that meaty center. This is the cream of the Oreo cookie of the Chaos War. And there's like 6 actual books set in this era and a series, like an anthology full of stories and stuff. I've never read any of these. So this is my first go around. And I gotta say, hey Chris, how you doing, man? If this is an indication of what is to come, I'm really excited because I had a lot of fun with this novel. I listened to it twice. The first time it felt a little bit convoluted and rushed. The second time, now that I have all the characters in my head, it felt really smooth and it fleshed out Thorbardin in a way that is, relatable, but also in total upheaval. Now, I didn't remember, and in fact, I'm not 100% sure I've ever known, and this is a spoiler because we're talking about the story here, that Thorbardin fell, that the dwarves had to evacuate Thorbardin. I never remembered that, ever. So this novel really had an ending that surprised me, which, of course, is exciting as a Dragonlance fan, 40 years on. I didn't think I'd ever be, really excited or surprised by anything. But here we are. Proven wrong, and I'm happy to be. Hey, Corey, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so Douglas Niles does love his dwarves. First of all, absolutely. However, this starts out with an overview of Thorbardin and the different clans of dwarves therein. We deal a lot with the Klar, the Hylar, and the Daergar. The other ones are mentioned, the other clans, but they're not really important. And arguably, even the Gully Dwarves, which are a central part of this novel, it's not really Gully Dwarves, and I'll get to that in a second. But it's interesting. So this is set after the Knights of Naraka, or the Knights of Takhisis, have taken the High Claris Tower and are taking Palanthas, right? So the Hylar king has called for warriors to join him across all the clans. None of the clans stepped up except for the Hylar. So the vast bulk of all Hylar fighting age and the king go off sailing north to go fight this imminent threat in the Knights of Takhisis. During this, sort of right before the Chaos War actually breaks out. So that leaves the interim Hylar Thane and the Thane of all of Thorbardin, and his name is Baker Whitegranite, who is much more of a scholar than a fighter or a leader even, as sort of watching the house, as it were, as, Thorbardin. His wife, who is a Daergar, who at one time was a beautiful dwarf, blah, 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 and is now this sort of like ugly crone with a really terrible disposition, basically straight up comes up and says, I don't want to be with you anymore. You're boring. You suck. And I'm going back to my own hometown. And he's like, all right, bugger off. I don't even like you anyway. Talk about an opening of a marriage, right? So she goes off and she's a little bit worried about her son. So she stops by her son, and he didn't go off with the other Hylar because he didn't feel like he's respected because he's half Hylar, half Daergar. And so he didn't feel like he was like appreciated or really respected as a warrior like the other Hylar are. And so he didn't go off to fight. But he kind of broods and he feels kind of bad about being where he is. And his mom's like, look, if you're going to stay with your dad, that's fine. But understand that he's a Hylar. They suck. I don't want you to suck. There's a lot of interracial hatred happening underneath this mountain. Everyone hates the Gully Dwarves. The Daergar hate everyone, and they're constantly trying to connive to take control of Thorbardin. And the Hylar are just doing their best to keep shit together. The Klar are insane and crazy. They've always been crazy, and they will always be crazy. That's just sort of like a racial trait. But there's a lot of smack talking between the different clans, which I found wildly entertaining, if I'm going to be honest. Like, I don't, it's all made up, so who cares? It's not real racism. It's just, it's fun. So she sees this opportunity in the absence of the Hylar actual Thane, the king under the mountain, as it were. She's going to go back home and try to convince her brother to come with the Daergar army and take Thorbardin over. There's not a Hylar army to stop them. But what she doesn't realize is there's also talks between the Daergar and the Klar that kind of went south and didn't really work out really well. The Daergar Thane dies, and they have to elect a new Thane. And her brother is fighting for it. They have an assassin on their side that's sort of helping thin the herd, as it were, so that he can end up taking the Daergar Thanehood. Is that a word? And anyway, so she goes down to the Daergar region of Deep Home, or whatever the hell it's called. I can't remember right now. Dark End is what it's called. She goes down to Dark End, and it's after he has already sort of cemented his vie for the throne. There's this duel that he has to go through that she's there for. But before she left and took the helmet of her ex-husband now. I guess they're still technically married. Baker, and this helmet has been in his family for generations, supposedly. So it basically lets you understand any language. You can hear it, you can speak it, you can read it, whatever the language this helmet allows you to do. But in a Daergar's hands, or on their head, it allows you to tell the motivations of people that you're around. And so it's very, very powerful tool for her, who's trying to then convince people to rise up and, take over Thorbardin. So she basically keeps it to herself, but she tells her brother, like, look, I've got this really great tool. You and I together can work and not only rule all of the Daergar Dark End, but also take over Thorbardin together. And he's like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's do that. So about this time, I should probably mention, I listened to this. And so the narrator sounds exactly like Robert from my Tyranny of Dragons live play when he's doing his draconian accent. It's always like this. All of the voices sound like this. Ah. And I kept hearing Mom in my head as he was like performing all of these dwarves' voices. It was very annoying. And it's like one voice for all the guys and one voice for all the girls. And so it was hard to sort of keep characters together. That's why I had to listen to it twice to kind of, make sure I was understanding what was actually being there. Yeah, it was all Kithris's voice, 100%. So anyway, we're also cutting every once in a while back to this Daemon warrior. And you'll remember in the Chaos War, the Daemon warriors could touch you. If they killed you, you would just disappear. Your armor and equipment would fall to the ground, and all memory of you would just disappear. So people could see the armor. They knew someone was there, even if it was your own family or friend or whatever, but they could not tell who it was. And so this is an integral part of Chaos lore, which is really interesting that they kind of broke it at the very end of this, but we'll get there in a second. So this book actually begins in the Abyss with this Daemon warrior who suddenly understands this call from Chaos and is sort of conscripted. So I always imagined Chaos actually created the Daemon warriors. This tells us that no, the Daemon warriors always existed in the Abyss. He just called them out of the Abyss. Bit of a different take, I thought. And he also sort of presents the father of all or nothing as the high god that created the other gods. And that's not really how the lore of Dragonlance ended up being. At one moment it was. It ended up being the high god exists, then chaos of the universe was Ionthus, which was, the father of all and nothing, as he speaks in Summer Flame. But ultimately, he doesn't become like the most powerful god of everything, because there's still the high god that is sort of, the father of creation rather than the father of chaos. So I have a video on it if you guys want to get into this sort of minutia of how it works. But this book is of the previous understanding of it, not the later understanding of it. And so it presents us a little bit odd as you're reading it now, of course, after the fact. In any case, we get this understanding of Takhisis going and being summoned by the other gods and, giving up all their territory so they can all fight as one big unit. And then, of course, the Hylar king sends back a message to the acting Thane saying, look, we're screwed. We don't know what's going on. Our entire army was decimated. We're probably never going to be able to make it back there. We've got to go and stand up against these Knights of Takhisis. Best of luck. Tell everyone that there's these massive chaos storms and all sorts of crazy stuff is happening. See you. And that's kind of like the message. And so Baker White Granite figures, okay, well, I'm now the acting Thane of Thorbardin. I'm the last Thane of Thorbardin in this moment. And there's these chaos storms. We need to get our hands around all of the clans and get everyone operating together. But chaos is inside of Thorbardin is about to break out. And so he never really gets a chance to do anything about it. But his son heard about it, and he goes down to talk to his mom to sort of tell her about it. She captures him and traps him so he can't go around telling anyone else about this, because if there's chaos and storms and the Hylar king's not coming back, this is her opportunity with her new Thane brother of the Daergar to go take over. However, the Klar out of nowhere decide to start ravaging all of Thorbardin. And so the Klar are also attacking all these different clan regions across Thorbardin. The Daergar are doing their best to sort of fight back. All the while, Baker White Granite, the acting Thane of the Hylar and of all Thorbardin, is obsessed with the dragon grotto that used to exist here in Thorbardin back in the Age of Dreams and stuff. And of course, if you read the Dragons book, The Lost Histories, then you know that Thorbardin is where all the good dragons actually used to live. But apparently, Chisel Loremaster, when the Grey Gem of Gargath was moving around, it came in and infected one of the platinum dragon eggs with immense power. And Chisel Loremaster trapped that egg in this little hidden area within Thorbardin. And it's supposed to contain a bunch of power, right? So Baker is looking for it, and he's obsessed with this idea of finding this platinum dragon egg that's been touched by chaos. He was going to be using his helmet to decode these ancient texts to find out where it was, but his wife took it. So he's kind of screwed in finding that part of it. That will come into play later on in the story. So as the Klar are attacking, the remnant Hylar are doing their best to fight back and maintain the ocean that's all around the life tree and keep the Klar from getting in. The Daergar are fighting off the Klar in their own region. The son of Garemeth and Baker, who was trapped by his mother so that he couldn't go tell anyone anything, is found by these gully dwarves who then lead him out. And then they ultimately are going to lead him in these sort of back alley ways to get back up to Hylar to tell his dad about his mom drugging his ass. And then we cut to the Daergar, who fought off the Klar and are moving their armies, also attacking at the Urkin Sea in the Life Tree, attacking the Hylar, and they're doing their best to get there as quickly as possible. During this massive assault of the Klar and the Daergar and the Hylar, up at the Life Tree, they're taking level by level. The Hylar are doing their best, but again, most of their army's gone and dead and forgotten. Because, again, the Daemon warriors are killing them, so they don't exist in reality anymore. So as this massive battle is going on, that's when Chaos War begins in here. This massive Daemon warrior with a bunch of fire dragons melt through the walls of Thorbardin and start boiling the sea and destroying everyone and killing them, and everyone's freaking out. And they're reporting back to their Thane, hey, look, these people that I thought I knew next to me, we were fighting, they just disappeared and their armor just sort of dropped to the ground. I can't remember who they are. I don't understand what's happening. I know that they were someone, but I can't remember it. And they sort of piece it all together and eventually get what's happening, though they still don't know who the people are that have gone missing. And so as they're losing numbers left and right, the Thane's like, look, we need to get as many Hylar out of the city. And of course, all the other, out of Thorbardin, I should say. And all the other clans and dwarves are doing the exact same thing, running for their lives, putting up as good a defense as they can. But this is chaos. There's nothing you can do against it. And so the great chunk of this book is this massive devastation of Thorbardin and all of its clans, while the Daergar are actively doing their best to get up and take over and kill her own husband and become the Thanes. And Garameth, who took the helmet, she talks to this Daemon warrior who finds some weird attraction with her. And this is a very strange part of the book where this Daemon warrior agent of chaos is going around transforming himself into this massive Draco-lich dragon, killing everyone, then transforming back into his shadow Daemon White, and then like murdering people left and right. But he stops and talks to her and he's like attracted to her and they start working together. And so the chaos minions are working on behalf of the Daergar for the moment because of this helmet, and they're off just ravaging everyone. Meanwhile, the son is still trying his best to get back up to his dad with these gully dwarves, and one of the gully dwarves turns out to be the Scion Chisel Lore Master himself. He like reveals it. And so he's been here the whole time. He's been in Thorbardin since the Age of Dreams, the whole time, just kicking it as an Agar dwarf. Like, what? Why? What? Like, we were told he abandoned the good dragons to their sort of fates and died. But no, he just transformed into a gully dwarf, and he's been living as a gully dwarf in Thorbardin. So, okay. That was a weird one to sort of process. So ultimately, they get the helmet back from the mom. They get the helmet to the dad. He finds out where the platinum egg is. And the Daemon warrior now turns against the Daergar, ends up killing the mother. And here is the huge plot point error. The father and son remember the mother. All the other dwarves killed by these minions, everyone has forgotten about. But for some reason, they remember her. It's like Douglas Niles forgot the lore that he created, which is weird, and has been addressing the whole novel. But oh well. So they get into the area where the platinum egg is, and he literally just turns it. He just turns the egg, and he tells everyone, you need to get out of here. I'm the last Thane. You need to save yourselves. And as soon as they all run out of Thorbardin, light, and he twists this platinum chaos or gray gem touched egg, it shoots light out everywhere throughout all of Thorbardin, destroying all the chaos minions as the light emanates out of everywhere. And he dies in the process. And then we cut to everyone outside, and Chisel Lore Master dies in the process as well, supposedly. He's died before, so who knows? We cut to all the dwarves outside, and all the survivors don't remember anyone from inside of Thorbardin, have accepted that they can't go back into Thorbardin now. They have to go to Quillinesty and beg the elves for help. And this is, again, during the Chaos War, before the dragons have come. Okay, so the gods haven't actually left quite yet. They're about to leave. And so the Fifth Age is about to come on. But they're like, we need to get help from the elves. We've always had a good relationship with them before. So that's where all of the remnant dwarves from Thorbardin in every clan are all migrating away from Thorbardin. And Thorbardin has been abandoned, destroyed, completely annihilated. And yet, I guess they go back and fix it. Because I never remembered that part, that it was destroyed and abandoned. I always thought that they like fought off chaos and stuff, but they survived and lived in it still. But okay. So this literally ends with them going off to Quillinesty and abandoning Thorbardin, and Thorbardin being ravaged by this platinum chaos-infused egg, and the last Thane dying. And it was actually it had some heart. It had massive adventure, great battle scenes. and it's total chaos in the Chaos War, because you had 3 clans warring with each other for the throne, presumably, and chaos coming in and battling all of them, which was really exciting. It added deep, deep DragonLance lore with Chisel, Loremaster, and the Dragon Grotto inside of Thorbardin. It added really great Chaos War sort of extra information that if Dragons of Summer Flame would have ever been able to be the original trilogy that it was supposed to be, we would have gotten these little stories in various incarnations in that trilogy. But because it was forced to be one book, then, you know, we sort of have to rely on this Chaos War series in order to get any insight into the other regions around the world that were affected. I gotta say, I really enjoyed this novel. Even with the errors that are filled with, that are sort of ripe in this, especially with the author calls it the Grey Gem, like the reader, I should say, the performer. He always pronounces it Grey Gem. And I'm just like, really? Like, are you a dummy? Grey Gem? Even when I never heard anyone else say it, I said Grey Gem. But okay, what's a gem? And he pronounces a lot of words really, really odd. But what are you going to do? They're authors. They're not fans. They don't know. They're just doing their best to make a paycheck. So I'm not going to fault him. It's just strange. It was a really fun read. And I just loved getting the insight of the dwarves warring with each other, their factions always having warred with each other, and the little, you know, insight into Chisel, Loremaster, and the good dragon eggs and stuff. That's always fun. But ultimately, it's the Chaos War that I came for, and it's the Chaos War that I got. And what else can you ask for? This is a one-off book set in a series of one-off books set during the Chaos War. I'm here for it. And if you love the Chaos War right before the Fifth Age, if you always wanted to know more about how other regions of Krynn were affected, this series is the one for you. The next one's going to be set with Crysania in Palanthas. There was 2 modules made that set in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition and the 5th Age Dramatic Saga system. So you could play those 2 modules in either game system you want, or just choose whatever game system you want to play them in. But they do tie into that novel. So I'm really excited to read this novel next to find out, I think it's called Tears of the Night Sky or something like that, to find out what it's involved with or what's going on there. I always liked Crysania as a character. She didn't really get her due in the Legends, in my opinion. She was always sort of presented as a kind of an idiot, really. I mean, in my opinion. So I want to see a more mature, aged adult Crysania. You know what I mean? Because she's like in charge of the Temple of Paladine, of the religion right now. So when chaos strikes, she's going to be doing her best to sort of keep her hands around everything and help Palanthas. And it'll be interesting because we don't get a whole lot of Palanthas-based stories. And there's a handful of them. But this one's going to be interesting, I think. So I'm looking forward to it. So anyway, if you like dwarves, if you like the Chaos War, what else? If you just like war stories, you should definitely read The Last Thane by Douglas Niles. You'll enjoy it, I think. All right. That's my review. All right, so let's see. You didn't know it fell, Corey? I didn't either. Chaos War had so many monumental events that get glossed over in the main novels. High Clara's Tower, Knights of Naraka taking Anslon. Yeah, I'd really want to deal... I would love to get a story that's just Eric and Erica's going off to the tarmac and getting them to join in the army, and then like just chronicling their conquest. I think that would be an interesting story. I don't know if it exists or not because I haven't ever read it, but if it does exist, I can't wait to read it. And if it doesn't, I wish it did. I know the lore is out there, but that's not quite the same. You're remiss on the Chaos War, but you remember the Daemon Warriors. Draconians were crafted by putting souls of Abishi and Betazu into mortal sort of shells. You always figured some of the heavier fiends would consider Takhisis a prime target for ransom in the Blood Wars. She's kind of a big deal. She definitely is a big deal. How you doing, Engine Joe? Good to see him. Let's see. Always bad luck for the dwarves. It certainly seems like it. Not as bad as the elves, though. They really took it hard. A Gully Dwarf is best disguise, though. Yeah, I guess. God, your savior. Thanks for tuning in, man. Love the channel. Wish you could afford to support it. It's okay. Just tune in and say hi. And that's all the support I need. There's a nice beat about survivors' guilt and the importance of staying alive to tell tales to others about the fallen. Yeah, and that's also a really great element of this at the very end when they're like, well, we have to survive. We have to sort of go on and sort of reimagine, the world. I think that's kind of fun. You want more stories about the Chaos War? Well, we've got like 5 more of them to read through, so. See, one-off books are usually good. The decent understanding of Dragonlance in all the books is crucial. Yeah, and you can't get more understanding than Douglas Niles. I mean, while his writing isn't always great, is rarely great, he helped create Dragonlance. He helped write the original modules, like a lot of them. So, like, you can't get a better well of knowledge for him than him. Let's see. The idea of thousands of survivors not knowing who their dead family members were is so powerful and tragic. Yeah, it's brutal. But they're not the only ones, Everyone had to deal with this. And so I'm interested to see if there's a story centered in Quillinesty, where the Chaos War strikes there. And then all of a sudden all these dwarves come in here and they're like, hey, we need help. And they're just like, you? Look around. We're fighting for our lives. Ah. Yeah. It's so great. The Conquest of Ansalon. Yeah, I'm not going to get to that. It would be an interesting project, but I got too much other things going on. All right. Well, that is all I had for this. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I highly recommend this novel. Seriously, it was a lot of fun to read. And if you can read it, I would suggest that over the audiobook, because just the performance in the audiobook was weird. And it made it a little more confusing than it needed to be. But in any case, it was totally worth it. So that is it for my review of The Last Thane by Douglas Niles. What did you think of the loss of Thorbardin? Did you like the Scion inclusion? And finally, how do you think the author did? Feel free to email me at info@dlsaga.com or leave a comment below. I'd like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the like button. This all goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga, and I hope you'll join in that celebration. Thank you for watching. Before I go, I do want to make a little note on my Evil Live Play YouTube channel. The link is actually in this video, in the notes. Next week, instead of Tyranny of Dragons, and for the next few weeks, gaming session weeks, we're going to be playing in my Direlands campaign setting over on my YouTube Evil Live Play channel. So if you want to watch the same crew that's in the Tyranny of Dragons live play on this channel for the next few game sessions, you can catch them over in a whole new campaign setting of my own creation on my other YouTube channel. Check it out. And if you don't want to, that's cool too. I'm still going to have a good time. All right. So thank you for watching. This has been Adam with Dragonlance Saga. And until next time, Slanjavar.